What up, people? All right, let's do this. I really don't have a motivation to record the video, but I have to continue going with my channel. It's a lot harder than you think, and on some of the videos I will start it regarding this machine, what I'm doing here. Don't have much of a motivation to record. It's kind of go, real busy right now. But the whole idea for me to have a YouTube is to memorize my life pretty much. But let's begin. So this is a 257 B3 skid steer. If somebody not familiar, I used to be in trucking a little bit for about 13 years over the road. And then my dad always did heavy equipment for the longest I remember. We do rock stuff like that. So I wanted to, I had a couple skid steer. I sold them, bought them, sold them, bought them. So I said, I'm gonna buy a skid steer and I'm just gonna keep it. So I ended up buying a Cat 257B. And some of the people are gonna ask, like, why is a Caterpillar, nothing else? So here's my explanation. Before I get in detail, how much I paid for it, how many hours and everything. I looked on many different skid steers, and the type of work I do, we have a rock crusher back there, and I'm for sure has to have a track machine. There's no way I can have tires because I'm constantly gonna have flat tires on it. So I end up buying a track machine. The reason I bought the Cat, it's not because it's my preference, Caterpillar. I really don't care. If it would up to me and I had enough finances would let me, I probably would buy a John Deere because I had one and I really liked it. The price was right. So this is 2013 257B. I paid $27,000 for this machine. It has a little over 3,000 hours. So it's 3,043 hours, something like that. And somebody's gonna say that is absolute insane price. I totally agree with you, but there is possible to find the same machine for a hell of a lot cheaper out of state, but then you talk on trucking too and you can't look at it. So this machine was local machine, some construction company owned it. Obviously has normal wear and tear on it, like the pins wore out on the bucket. I will show you. The tracks were wore out, which I will show you. But overall, when I found this machine, which was 6 months ago, I said at the local case dealer, they wanted a 36,000 for 35. I don't remember. I says that is absolutely insane. It ain't worth it. So then 5-6 months later, I stopped in. This machine's still sitting there, so it was way overpriced. And I says, dude, what's your bottom dollar on it? So I offered him 22. He said, there's no way. And then I come back with the 27. So I did not negotiate anymore. I says, okay, I will take it. The machine runs absolutely perfect. Doesn't have no blow by, nothing. It wasn't very filthy. All these minor scratches, dents, it's a construction machine. That is absolutely normal. Has a little bit, surface rust. I don't even pay attention to stuff like that. My main concentration was make sure all the glass, interior somewhat decent, which is a seat tore up. I might buy one of those later on. I'll put a cover over it. Make sure joysticks all working. So I took this machine for a ride and I'm like, this thing rides really smooth. The tracks is normal. I seen the sprockets were wore out, which I will show you. The bucket was very loose, so I did put new bushings and new pins in there. It's much better. It's still loose, but it's much better. Right here's all the old pins. This arm right here, it has a bushing. So yesterday I changed that. The cylinders do not have bushings. They're metal on metal. So it's not tight right now, but you can tell it has a play up there, which is fine. That doesn't bug me much, which is weird. The main thing, make sure you don't have much of a play over here, which I have very little because the eyelid on the quick connect plate wore out. So I rewelded, grind it up, made it a little bit tighter. The main thing to keep them greased all the time. It will last me for a really long time. That's not my primary machine. It says we have an excavator sitting up there and I got a couple 963 Caterpillars. This is more of like a finishing machine for the little tight spots. So I don't believe we're gonna use it like a lot. I mean, we will, but not a lot. Another thing, this pins right here on the bottom will not take grease. Everything else will. So the first thing I did when I bought the machine, obviously I signed and paid the paperwork for it. Just the way things I do, I lift the cab up and I power washed everything. I clean everything out. The AC was not working very well. It does work, but what happened is it was plugged up. The heat exchanger, whatever you want to call it, coil, AC coil was fully plugged of mud, and they did had new filters on it. So I cleaned that out. Now it's working really good. All the lights are working. Now let's go back to the tracks. So the pins were out. I looked up here. This is dummy wheels, or whatever the proper name for it. So some of it were replaced. They do last for quite a while, unless you don't get in really heavy concrete. You don't have to change them. I seen there was a bolt broke off, which is not a big deal. We can extract. So they did have a couple new dummy wheels on it. This ones take a long time to wear them out. They're steel. But I seen people, you actually can weld on them and kind of remachine them. But they're not that expensive, believe it or not, which I will get in. This one is pretty tore up, so probably this is going to be the next thing I will have to change in this one right here. So those two I will change for sure, because they're already so wore out right next to the new one. They just turn. But this machine, Caterpillar, that's one thing I found out. It actually has a torsion bars, which is the arm right there. So when you come in and pick it up, a bucket full of gravel, the machine will tip in a little bit. It feels like it's going to go forward, but it's absolutely normal for them. So to the sprocket, see how loose this is? I says, well, ain't they supposed to be loose? Because every time I see them, they kind of make this rattling noise when it's going. So right here, how bad they were. So they are double pinned. And there's internal pin and external pin, and they were wore out, and the bolt goes in the middle. Here's the new one. That's how tight they are. So if I take this off, I mean, they are tight. The Caterpillar, for some reason, does not sell it as the whole entire kit. Like, hey, can I buy a sprocket kit? Well, I call it sprocket. They call it something like squirrel cage or something like that. They're like, no, you have to buy all the parts individual. So they bought it $13 for, no, it's like $11.98 for inner pin, and it's $13 for an outer pin, which is bigger one. So this is outer, and there's inner. I don't know, tells you the difference. And what I'm doing is, anti-seize them inside, but the anti-seize will eventually wear out, so they just literally running metal and metal. So my understanding, if this machine is 3,000 hours, I don't know if the tracks were changed. I'm pretty sure they were. Next time I will have to do that, it'd be a 6,000 hours. Maybe like, what is it, maybe 5,500 hours one machine is going to have. That's what I'm going to change. But depends on which condition you run in. If you run in this things in the sand, they probably wore out a hell of a lot faster. If they in the dirt, probably not as fast, but still wear out. So far, I believe on all this pins and everything, I spent $500, which I didn't think it's too expensive. You can buy the whole entire, let's call this squirrel cage or sprocket. You can buy the whole assembly. They about $800 a piece. So I figured it'd be cheaper for me just to rebuild the ones I have, because the sprocket itself looks good. This backup plate has a little bit of play, which is fine. I ain't worried about that. I did bought the oil filter and the oil, which will get oil will get changed. The oil was changed in 09 of 22, so it's been over a year ago. But like I said, this machine sat for almost a year at the dealer. The batteries were fine. So another thing, this machine did not have a bucket. So in the deal of $27,000, I got a brand spanking new bucket, which they told me it's not a HD bucket. I don't know what the difference is. For what I do, it will work just fine. But that is a brand new bucket, which is 78 inches, which I asked him, I wanted it a little bit wider than the track, because when they come factory, majority of the time, the bucket's gonna be the same width as your track, which will come up right here. So I asked 2 inches wider. Why is it 257 B3 this size? Nothing bigger. I could have bought a little bit bigger machine. They had a little bit newer, couple years machine, newer for a couple $1,000s more, because I don't have a heavy enough trailer to pull behind a pickup. Then I would have to upgrade my pickup, or I would have to, there's a semi sitting there with the lowboy. Otherwise I would have to hold this machine with the lowboy. So that's why I picked that. I actually wanted it smaller, but this one, that's what I found. So my suggestion, if you're looking for the skid steer, unless you're a hard die fan of John Deere, Bobcat, or Cat, whatever it is, they pretty much, in my experience, which I don't have much of it, but in my experience, they pretty much the same. They will do all the same job. The parts availability is about the same. A lot of people prefer Takeuchi, that's not the one of the machines I was considering, because that's the one machine, it's a very good machine, but they said that sometimes it's really hard to find the parts because they from Japan and they're not super popular, they just become popular. So I decided to go with American brand, which is Caterpillar, and I'm gonna keep going working on a sprocket, and then trying to figure out how to put this thing back in, because I had a hell of a time to get it off. This arm right here, it's actually not adjusting arm. The problem is the bolt goes through here, so there's no way to turn this tube to extend it out. So I think it has to be pried up over here, and then you adjust this and set it way in place. I don't know, am I gonna have to call somebody to help me to stick this sprocket back on whatever I'm done. But this is the first side. I still gotta do on the other side, but the pins are done. So after this, we're gonna change the oil, and we will drive, and hopefully I will record the video on if somebody will hold the camera. Thanks for watching all.